Hi everyone, Gabesta here with a Starcraft 2 commentary guide. This video is for the Outmatched achievement, the 1 versus 4 very hard AI opponents. And more so than any other Outmatched achievement that was available, I found this one the most difficult by far. Mostly because very hard is still pretty challenging for me, even just a straight one-on-one, if I don't cheese it. So going against the 4 opponents in this cannon sort of setup was really difficult, even more so than the 2 insane opponents by far. So I did a lot of experimenting and messing around to figure out how to do this, and found this method was the best. So the first thing I do is, with my initial built probe, send it out immediately across the map to the opponent's base. And then I just keep building up probes as I normally would until I hit the max of 10. And I also choose to use Protoss, as you see, against Terran opponents, as you'll find out in a moment. And as I explained in my insane video for the Outmatched achievement, it's mostly because the Terran Marine units, the initial attacking units that they get, are pretty weak. So cannons have a much easier time against them. Now the first thing you'll do is, if you're using the Megaton map like I am here, then your initial pylon placement is very important. And if you saw that spot for that first pylon, a little bit of luck was involved, but I was able to put it down without any reaction from the AI. And often what will happen is, based on the difficulty of the AI, as I explained in the 1 versus 2 insane Outmatched achievement video, if your pylon is too close to your opponent's base, it might be the command center or just a visual thing, I'm not sure exactly. But if it's too close, it will trigger the worker harassment. So they will immediately pull tons of workers to try to kill your pylon, because they don't want to get buildings in their base, obviously. And for the very hard difficulty, you need 2 buildings or more going up simultaneously for the AI to not bother attacking it. They'll figure it's not worth it. Insane difficulty, as I mentioned in that video, it's 3 or more buildings. But as you saw here, my initial pylon, the southern one, was just out of range, and I got a little lucky, so I didn't get any harassment. So I was able to get both those pylons up without having to build any extra or waste any minerals. So that's really helpful. And at the end of this game, I'll show you a quick clip of what happens if you do get poor placement or bad luck and you get worker harassment at the start, how to sort of handle it so you can move on. Anyway, the important thing is once you get your 2 pylons placed kind of between the 4 bases, then you want to build your forge between them, and then save up 300 minerals and get a couple cannons out on both sides. Try to stick your cannons close to the center of your building clump to give them more protection. And then from there, the basic idea is to move out with cannons, just sort of creeping along, only a couple spaces, 1 or 2 spaces forward each time. And if you're really concentrating, the thing to remember is only to build out when you have at least 1 or 2 cannons already constructed behind that can protect that building cannon. As you saw a moment ago there, the yellow player was actually going for Reapers, and I almost lost my probe, so just be careful about going too far out. The AI tends to not want to attack your probe, your worker, but if you do push out too far ahead of your cannons or buildings, it will go for that. Another thing to watch for is if you get your buildings attacked by too many enemy units, you might have to cancel them before they get destroyed. So you saw there I had to cancel a cannon that was too close to those Reapers twice in a row. So just be watching for that. Kind of make sure once you place something down, you'll get a feel after a few seconds whether the AI will be able to attack it or will choose to let it go up. So here you're really expanding out in 2 directions to try to split between the 2 bases. And the idea is to ultimately get a cannon within range of each of the 4 command centers. But before you can do that, you have to really deal with the barracks units. So if you see a barracks in the direction that you're building, try to force multiple cannons within range of it. And just because the way the AI is programmed, it will often come forward, attack for a little bit, and then go back. And in the process, it usually loses a couple units by doing that. So as long as you're within range of the barracks quickly enough and with enough cannons as support as you're building forward, then you shouldn't actually lose too many, and you'll slowly gain ground. But I spent a lot of time doing this achievement, or practicing this achievement, without building extra probes, and just sticking with the initial 10 I had. And actually, it turns out that while you'll get out your initial few buildings faster, you maybe get to the 5th or 6th cannon faster. In the long run, your actual mineral income is just far too low to support going against 4 opponents, because they're not going to start quitting out until you're actually able to get into their command center area. So building extra probes throughout most of this is really important. And don't forget your chrono boost, because obviously as Protoss, that helps a lot with your production of probes. So you can see I'm up to 23 or so now. And so this allows you to just constantly, or near constantly, be building extra cannons, even if you lose a couple in the process. So the yellow players quit out by now, because he was one of the first to actually get cannons in range of his command center. So from here, it's just kind of important to figure out where your weaknesses are in your defense, basically which side or which opponent has the best build up of forces. Especially Marauders are dangerous if you're going against Terran. And just sort of force more cannons on that side so that the opponent either has to come forward into range of your backup cannons, or it will just let you build forward toward the command center. And either way, it can't do much. So the difficulty is really getting that initial chunk of buildings, especially the first few pylons, without worker harassment. If you can get to that point, and you can just kind of slowly creep yourself forward, continue building workers, and they should never attack your own base, so you should be safe to just focus on this as long as your workers are alive here. And you can see them just quitting out really quickly now. There's only one left. And if you stick around after this finishes, I'll show you that example I mentioned of how to deal with the worker harassment if your placement at the start is kind of off. So let me load up this other replay real quick. So I think on this one I was actually trying slightly different build order as well. Yeah, I don't send out a worker quite as early. I think I send out my 8th supply. And I'm speeding it up here so you kind of can see what's going on. So same basic idea. I want to try to get that center position between them. So you'll see this initial pylon goes down fine. No one does anything. But as soon as that worker on the top right gets within vision range, then the AI triggers. And basically it says, this pylon is too close to my base, so worker harassment must, commence. So what you want to do as soon as that happens is run away and try to queue up multiple extra buildings. And as I mentioned, if against very hard difficulty, if you get 2 buildings within range of their base, the harassment will basically stop. And, or I should say 2 pylons actually. I'm not sure if all buildings count. In any event, as you can see there, you just kind of have to dance around, and it can be pretty difficult if you do trigger that harassment AI. But the best thing to do is to just dance around, queue up multiple buildings, and then just buy yourself time so that you're able to let certain buildings finish, like your initial pylon, your forge, as you can see the southern pylon there, and then cancel buildings that are in the process before they finish, so you get most of the minerals back from them. And that way you don't lose too much by that harassment happening. So that's really the best way to handle that sort of worker harassment issue. And as I mentioned, it's 2 pylons for very hard, 3 pylons or more for insane, and all the other difficulties, they won't bother if there's at least 1. So that's it. Good luck, and thanks for watching.